no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep, till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep, till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep, till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep, till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me. Ain't no stopping me.
I remember some of these games.
Dude, Tetris is epic. It is for a game that is literally made out of blocks. Just the whole game is based on just lining them up and knocking them down. That's it. It was Call of Duty before Call of Duty was Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
Super Mario World up there. Sonic.
Here comes Pokemon.
Dude, Pokemon's got 2 spots. That's not fair. Red, green, gold, silver.
Mm-hmm. Now the Sims is sneaking up.
Dude, Sims. Dude, the Sims. If it includes all of the different iterations of the Sims, it absolutely. I don't know which would have more sales, Pokemon or Sims. It'd be close.
Oh, Vice City.
So you can see on the bottom here, you got Duck Hunt way back there, but still a lot of sales on Duck Hunt.
Well, this is from 1989, I think. So
This is up to, well, we're up to 2000.
oh, San Andreas.
San Andreas busting on the scene.
Out of nowhere. Look at that. Just
Tetris is still beating GTA.
bro, I want to see where Halo 3 is. Because Halo 3 was insane. Halo 3, I remember the first night. You know how in Halo 3, whenever you turned on the multiplayer screen, you could see all the dots of where everybody's playing across the world?
Yeah.
Oh,
Here
wow.
comes EA with their own Tetris.
Yeah. Well, I remember we got the game at 12:02 at night. We got home at 12:05, turned it on at 12:07, and it was already 14 million people playing. And I was like, how is that even possible? Yeah, Wii Sports, there's Tetris again.
Man. Pac-Man's still rocking it. Pokemon's there. Super Mario.
You tell me Halo is not on this list? That's impossible.
White City's Super Mario Wii.
Mm-hmm. Tetris at the top again.
This is wild. How far up are we going to watch this? Because, like,
I know it's not far, but the first one we did consoles. This time we're doing games. And there goes Minecraft.
Bro. Dude.
This is insanity. Skyrim just entered the chat.
Skyrim. Oh, dude.
Dude, that's insanity.
Different iterations.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
5, okay.
Minecraft is leaving everybody in the dust right now.
Dude. That's wicked. Look at the chart. Look at the chart. It's like, oh no. What's a stratosphere? Like, there is no ceiling. There is no glass ceiling for Minecraft. This is stupid.
Look at it. It's going up like a rocket ship. Diablo. PUBG, of course.
See, I didn't know PUBG was that popular.
Oh, it's still popular. I don't know why, but it's still popular.
Which is the one that a lot of people play prop hunt on? That's real popular. Is that PUBG? Is that CSGO? Which one is that? I know that there's prop hunt in a handful of different games.
There's another one that's out there that's similar to PUBG. The Witcher. Okay, now we're getting into games. I have no idea.
Oh, this is stuff some of these coming up on the bottom. Those are from Steam. Those are independent games. So Terraria is one of those platformers. It's like it's Minecraft was 2D.
Right.
You know,
Look at GTA 5 and freaking Minecraft. That is insane. And there's Overwatch.
Well, let's just appreciate that Tetris is still up there at 2003 and is beating out. Like, Tetris has been in the top 5, top 3 at that point. For nobody's going to defeat Tetris. Tetris is undefeated.
I mean, no one can beat that.
Unless your name is Blue Scooty.
Unless it was that like original soundtrack, you know, dun 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 dun. That was like the original OG song of any video game. Okay, now you're just showing off.
I got my fingers back.
Oh man, that was fun. How about that? Well, you know the time, guys. Welcome to RomaNation. I'm AK, your favorite guy, and tonight, you guessed it, we're going to continue our 3-part series on the history of gaming consoles. We're going to go over Gen 5 and Gen 6 tonight and how they changed modern gaming forever. So sit back and relax as RomaNation starts now.
So lonely, I'm hiding, I'll be so lonely.
What's going on, people? Scrap, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm the physical therapy is going pretty well. You know, I'm getting a little bit of my finger action back. You know,
I can see that. I can see that. Like now you're only twice as good as me.
Well, I'm not as good as I once was, but I was good once as I ever was.
As you ever were.
As I ever was. Yeah.
Were. Yeah. Well, you guys already know what we're going to do. So we're going to get into it. But first, we got a Discord where all the magic happens. You know, I had to do the spiel for RomaNation. Want to be a podcast host, producer, researcher, or writer for us? It's the only place where you can be a part of the fastest growing podcast community on Rumble, on X, on YouTube, wherever you want to be. And that gap is actually closing pretty soon. It's closing pretty soon because, as you can see, we've got a bunch of shows on our network now, a bunch of people that have joined us, and a lot of producers that have ideas for shows that we finally launched. We've got 2 more shows.
Will bring you beverage when you're thirsty.
I wish I could, but my kids are in Colombia right now, enjoying it without me.
Yeah, I have a very, very amazing wifey. And
yes, you do.
The kids have their earbuds in and they're playing games as we're talking about games. And I was like, "Can somebody get me a mango?" While we're in the bump. And of course, the kids don't know a thing. And she's like, "I got you, babe.
There it is.
I got you, babe." Pop, 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 pop.
Oh boy. Anyways,
Wife
wife is not here because she's enjoying herself in the life of luxury.
We're gonna get a copyright strike if I keep doing karaoke impromptu.
We got a website. We're RomaNation's part of Rise Middle America Podcast Network, where you can see our most recent content, news, rants, deep dives, as well as up-and-coming events that you don't want to miss. We got our beautiful faces down here. Man, that Timcast episode, that was a lot of fun.
I look like if Mr. Miyagi had, you know, I don't know, it was like younger. You know,
and white.
And white. You can't really tell if I'm white or not. It's clay. I mean, you maybe, and Brian, 5 o'clock, you know, Shadow over here, Shadow of War, 5 o'clock, Shadow of War. I don't know.
Yes.
Not landing.
Yeah.
These claymation things are great.
These are awesome. I want to keep them up here forever. I know we can't, but it's gonna be good. But also, we have our merch site, which I finally got working. I don't know why. The last couple of weeks, I could not, for the life of me, get a hold of this merch. But I got it back. That's right. So
That,
this, go ahead.
That one on the far right's about to go out of stock, isn't it?
It's going out of stock on Friday. Yep,
Uh-huh.
it is being replaced with that one and the dog, the baby hunter shirt.
Friday, like the Friday after we record this, because people are going to see this and not know this is pre-recorded because we didn't say anything a little bit ago, or the
Yeah,
Friday
that's true.
after they see the show.
Exactly. So make sure, the following Friday. So
Okay,
make sure
before the
you
next
get these
episode,
shirts. That's right.
and this
riseofmiddleamerica.printful.me.
we're going to play taps for that shirt next time you see us.
Exactly. But anyways, make sure you go to riseofmiddleamerica.com, support us. You can support us by going to Rumble. You can hit that subscription. You can join us for $5 a month. You can join us on our Discord. Every single one of those is in the top right-hand corner of our website. So if you go in, I'm actually going to show you right now, right here. Everything's right there. Jump right in. Help us get up. We're going to try and do some, try to get some help with some funding to get a lot of these shows up and running. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to come back tenfold for you guys. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And you know what?
So,
we're going from cartridges to compact discs. Because that was in the late 90s.
And we have one to bridge. There's one that bridges that gap. But we have to get to him first because the CDs go back. I think during the Genesis era, there was stuff like the 3DO. I think the Atari Jaguar had CDs. The CD game consoles didn't catch until, we ended up in like beyond the Sega Genesis and the SNES era.
Mm-hmm.
Was it PlayStation? The PS1 was the first one to really do that? No, it was Saturn.
No, it was CD. It was Sega CD. And during that time, they were still building cartridge games for the N64.
Wow. That's a nice overlap.
It's like a 7-year overlap.
That's wild.
It's crazy. Well, actually, no, it was longer than that because I think N64 games were still being made all the way up to 2000.
There are new 64 games being made now, but they're by independent developers. They're not really licensed because there's a whole world of retro gaming out there. We'll have to do an entire other bonus episode on because when we left off on the Genesis last time, right? And I was fangirling over the sound system of it. I was just absolutely crushing on the fact that that system had my favorite game series on it. The thing that goes one step beyond is the composer of the music for those soundtracks for Sonic 3 and for Streets of Rage. He's building a shmup right now, one of those space shoot 'em ups, and for the original hardware.
Oh wow!
Yes, it's in development right now, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. And then the cool thing is the new cartridges. I'm going to get too deep. The new cartridges have more memory on them. Limitation of the old systems, so we'll get it. We'll do another. We'll have to do a bonus on that one.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, that's something we'll do over the summer, sort of like a bonus episode in the middle of the week or something.
Yeah,
jump in on it. But yeah, so but really, what we're doing today is we're going from the cartridges to the CDs in the late 90s, early 2000s. And of course, it marked a pivotal shift in gaming. So we're going to jump into the CD era, which is the medium choice, I guess, like kind of in the middle of all of our gaming, and introduce iconic consoles that redefined, entertainment. So sit back, relax, because it's past, present, and future. History of Gaming, Part 2 of 3.
there it is. There's the Tower of Power.
Is it? Oh yeah, you're right.
There were two iterations there. You had the original. It looks like it was like a dock on top, and then you had the sidecar.
Yeah, I had the sidecar. I had the sidecar with the old Sega Genesis. So the Genesis that you see up there, so it looked weird because it hung off about that much.
They didn't line up. So they kept I never saw them. See, I had a cousin that had the first generation, the square body. He didn't have the CD, and then I had the second gen, and then I knew a buddy of mine on the street had the sidecar, right? But I never saw the original with the dock on, like the original one, the Model 1.
Yeah, I never saw the Model 1, but I had the Model 2 with the Model 1 Genesis.
That's funny. Like, it's such a hodgepodge.
It really was, but it worked. It definitely worked. Yeah, so we're going to start off with Sega CD. That's where we ended off last time, and I said that we were going to kind of delve into it this week, so we're going to go ahead and start off with it. So Sega CD, known as Mega CD, in most regions outside of North America and Brazil, the CD-ROM accessory and format for the Sega Genesis produced by Sega as part of the fourth generation of video game consoles. Originally released in November of 1991, it came to North America in late 1992 and the rest of the world in 1993. The Sega CD plays CD-based games and adds hardware functionality such as faster CPU and a custom graphics chip for enhanced sprite scaling and rotation. It can also play audio CDs and CDG discs.
That's kind of like, so when they're talking about the sprite scaling and rotation, that's when, think like Paper Mario. 2D sprite, 3D plane. Sometimes it's not a geometric plane. Sometimes it's an actual plane, like in your favorite.
Oh, absolutely.
Afterburner.
Yeah, and it's Afterburner. And also, I think that's what the GameCube did with, not GameCube, the Nintendo 64 did with Super Smash Brothers. Kind of like that.
There was some of that in Smash Brothers. It was like, it was a full 3D environment. But I think what they were doing here was, like with Sonic CD was still that classic 2D, but the sprite didn't have, I don't believe the sprites had actual rotation in the animations. See, in the other games, when you went around the loops, it was a frame for each direction that Sonic was running. Whereas I believe on the CD, it just rotated the actual sprite of him just running stationary, which I believe is how Christian Whitehead did when he did the development for was it Sonic Mania? Because that's based off of the Sonic CD game engine. So that's what that kind of stuff does.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, what other games came out for CD that were good? Like you had
Chaotix. I'm sorry, I'm going to drop Sonic games all day long if you don't stop me. Knuckles Chaotix was on there. I had Virtual Fighter, the first one. I had what was the other one I had? I had a Star Wars arcade, and then I had a third game. I don't even remember what it was. I didn't play it much. It was one of those afterthought gifts that someone got me, like a random thing off the shelf. It just sat and collected dust. But I had like 3 games for my 32X.
Yeah, I had
so I had 3X, but it was CD. You're talking CD. So CD has Sonic CD. You had Afterburner, right? The Eternal Champions had a Sega CD version. What else had a Sega CD version? That's about all I know on it.
Yeah, because I had 5 games. I had Wonder Dog, which absolutely bombed. Afterburner. I had Hook. Hook was everybody says they hated that game. They said it sucked. That's one of my favorite games of all time. Sorry. Then I had Echo the Dolphin, which that was just 4th level, couldn't beat it, didn't care. And then I had a very interesting game, which was I had the Jurassic Park game.
Yeah, a lot of the Sega Genesis games were ported to CD. They had updated versions. I think there may have even been a Mortal Kombat port.
Dude, this game was absolutely insane.
Got at least one egg
because it had like
species in the
stuff
incubator.
like this.
I'll check on you again in a couple of hours. Oh, and By the way, good luck.
This was the kind of stuff you only had on PC. Like if you were a PC player and you're playing StarCraft or Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer is a perfect analog because the type of video and the voice acting is very comparable. Except on CD, there was a lot of this, which are pre-rendered. All of it's pre-rendered. We haven't got up to where they can do live cutscenes being rendered like in modern systems after Xbox 360.
All right. What else do we have? Let's see. There's a couple of other areas here that if you went into them. Oh, here we go. With
So
the
this wasn't
with the
like the
Raptors.
platformer. This wasn't the platformer port. This was its own game. Wasn't it? I played the platformer Jurassic Park.
Oh, here it is. Dude, this was like state-of-the-art engineering.
Again, they're trying to bring that arcade feel and push the limits.
Oh man. But yeah, so it's just like when you're 7 or 8 years old, this is like state-of-the-art. Like complete state-of-the-art type of gaming.
It's freaking
right?
out, man.
Oh my goodness. But I think we're getting off topic here. So let's go ahead and move on to the Sega Saturn. All right. So
the Saturn
obviously-
wasn't the Saturn backwards compatible with Genesis games
I don't
or 32X games? Because I believe there's a
I
cartridge.
think 32X it was.
Yeah, because this like is basically where Sega decides we need to try to get ahead, but they've already burned a lot of their budgeting and their research on the Genesis, the 32X, and the CD, and they tried to bring it all together here, but they had already burned so many resources, and Sega Japan was just absolutely had them in a chokehold that they weren't. The infighting at Sega is what really was their downfall. They had so much going for them with the Saturn and all of its extra CPU power, had dual CPU stuff, you know, it had the CD, it had a cartridge thing, all kinds of stuff, but it like the games weren't very good quality. They were trying to shove everything out the door to try play catch up. They were infighting amongst themselves, and then it just got overshadowed by the time, like, you know, once PlayStation N64 started to hit. It was over for the Saturn.
So we're gonna get it. I think you've probably given away a little bit too much over after the very next video. It's all good, but here, let's go in. So Sega Saturn is an in-home video game console developed by Sega, released November 22nd, 1994 in Japan, May 11th, 1995 North America, and July 8th, 1995 Europe. Part of the fifth generation of video game consoles, is the successor to the successful Genesis. Say that 3 times fast. The Saturn has a dual CPU architecture and eight processors. Games are CD-ROM format, blah, blah, blah. It began development in 92. Saturn was a new CPU, Japanese Electronics in Heihachi. So I actually found a video of the actual launch.
Oh yeah, we got to have the commercials.
You are only seconds away. I have arranged for you to meet my companion.
So creepy.
He will lead you. Watch and listen. Please, don't disappoint him. He doesn't like that.
We are 5 years away from entering the 21st century. Humankind stands on the edge of the interactive age. You have come a long way. But are you ready for the future?
Introducing Sega Saturn. Aw, hit it. Sega's next generation gaming platform, revolutionary sports and arcade gameplay, all with amazing
Our store Jamiroquai.
Where
Where
possible on home game systems.
You couldn't get the real Jamiroquai? No, kid. You have Jamiroquai at home.
Sega Saturn.
It's like the Pista's older brother, Charisma.
It's how you play the game.
There's Virtual Fighter.
Oh shoot! No, I think that was Virtual Fighter.
There's the NASCAR game, Daytona.
Oh, Daytona USA.
Daytona USA was
Dude,
amazing.
Sega Saturn, the benchmark of
It was
engineering
better in the
excellence,
arcade.
combining three 32-bit RISC
Okay, that's enough. All right, so
90s were a special time.
oh my goodness. But anyway, so we were talking about how you had the Sega CD and then the Sega, because a lot of these games they kind of overlapped when it came to development, because the Sega CD and the Sega Saturn they didn't use the same stuff, but they had different teams trying to figure out what the next best thing was.
Right.
So but that wasn't just for Sega. That was for PlayStation. That was for Nintendo. That was everybody. But now you see that as development goes, they're starting to become more and more spread out. And the next thing you know, gaming systems won't come out, until 10 years after the last one.
It's a plateau. There's a plateau happening. Yeah, I feel the most like the cool stuff that happened with the Sega Saturn was where we were continuing to get the things that Sega really excelled at was the arcade. If they still have arcade machines all over the place. Most of them are those scammy, grabber arm things and stuff, or the vending machines that they have all over Japan. But what they should have done was stick to what they did best, which was taking those games that other publishers and game studios were making that are arcade games and making them accessible in the home. Had they done that, I mean, look at what Nintendo's. We're about to get into the 64, where you have 4 controllers out the gate. How many controllers could you hook up to the Saturn? Right. How many games that are memorable can you walk into an arcade and play 4 people with?
A lot.
So Sega should have really doubled down on that. But instead, you needed adapters, to plug in multiple controllers for some of those games.
So did PlayStation, but theirs was a little different because PlayStation went up to 8.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember I played Madden once with 8 controllers, and it was insane. We had 4 on one side and 4 on the other. And one was a quarterback. I think I was the quarterback. My friend was the running back. And then we had one of my friends as wide receivers. We were all trying to guard each other. Dude, that game was a mess. It was the worst Madden game that we ever played. But
all the NPC AI can play better than you guys. You have no idea how to do the play.
It's like run a slant, pick 6. It was just, it was so horrible. But I loved it. We loved it because we were all able to play. But there's one guy that I found that was able to explain everything that happened. So let's go ahead and take a look what happened to Sega.
The end for Sega.
Everything.
Over 270 pages of leaked internal documents have appeared online. It's Sega of America's 1997 brand review, which includes release lists, emails, business strategy, and more. The documents are primarily dated to the first and second quarter 1996 and are designed to prep the company for the trials and tribulations in the upcoming year. And it is fascinating. The pressure felt by the Sony PlayStation is on full display while the company simultaneously deals with the looming release of the Nintendo 64. Sega of America, Saturn vs. PlayStation. How did Sony do it? Sony is generally perceived to be cheaper. This has improved, but we still suffer from early damage. Sony's product, software, looks better than ours. This is driven by our lack of delivering a product that appears to consumers to be better and advertising that focuses.
Easy.
Visual.
The Saturn was $400 2 years earlier, and the PlayStation was $299.
Yeah. And they also, go ahead.
On this dimension. PlayStations are better merchandised than Saturn, resulting in more exposure and sampling. Sega equity has been damaged by 32X and Sega CD. Since PlayStation is newer, some consumers feel that it is technically superior. Sony has effectively leveraged their considerable equity from consumer electronics. And this is all true. Sega of America knew exactly what was killing them. And per the first bullet point, the Saturn launched for $399. You may remember Sony's famous E3 press conference.
$299.
And there's a lot of time spent here trying to mitigate and deal with that damage. For
Just
example,
mic
here's
drop.
a critique of a commercial storyboard. A few concerns. First bullet point here. $249 price must be added visually or verbally. They had dropped down by $50 since launch. Key competitive assumptions. Sony PlayStation. Pricing $249 with software. The $199 core sometime in the fall. Nintendo 64. Not available until late fall. There's also a lot of time stressing out about software. Lack of sports titles, lack of Sonic, lack of quality compared to the PSX versions.
You have a lack of
Starting
Sonic
with the
and
latter,
Sega.
there's
Lack of Sonic. Like, how can you not have Sonic?
That's like Nintendo launching a new system without Mario Kart. Something Mario. No, not gonna do Mario this time. Nah, no. Though they can't. What happened was they did have some Sonic, but they had like Sonic adjacent, like Sonic Universe type stuff. And the Sega game, the Sonic games they did release were not. They were not good.
It's the same thing with the Dreamcast. Like the Sonic game for the Dreamcast, it was all right, but it was kind of like,
well, like,
it was very limited.
Like
very
even
limited.
Sonic the Fighters was okay, but like, and then Sonic R wasn't that great for a racing game. They weren't like traditional Sonic games. Yeah, they just didn't have it. Sony, and so like get back on the arcade thing. Sony nailed the arcade stuff with other games that they released because they had. You could get Time Crisis, you could get Area 51, you could get other stuff that I'm not going to hopefully get there.
I forgot about Area 51, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that game was so much fun.
That was one of my favorites. Yeah. So
remember that in the arcade?
Oh yeah.
Every time I saw it, first game I was.
If I wasn't playing House of the Dead, which was also I think on Sony PlayStation at one point. If not, correct me. But if it wasn't House of the Dead, it was Area 51. If it wasn't that, it was Silent Scope, Time Crisis, which I think I might have already said. But those games with the guns, like the Terminator game, that had the Uzis that were stuck to the thing, in the screen. The shooters were good. Sony had that.
Oh my god. Well, at least we know exactly like what Sega was afraid of. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. PlayStation. That's right. So the PlayStation, codename PSX, abbreviated as PS and retroactively PS1 or PS1, whichever way you like it, is a home video game console developed and marketed by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was released in Japan on December 3rd, 1994, following North America on the 9th of September, 1995. Remember that date right there. Europe on the 29th of September 1995, and other origins followed thereafter. As fifth generation console, the PlayStation primarily competed with Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn. Sony began developing the PlayStation after a failed venture with Nintendo to create a CD-ROM peripheral for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in the early 1990s. The console was primarily designed by Ken Kutaragi and Sony Computer Entertainment in Japan, while additionally developed was outsourced to the United Kingdom. Emphasis on 3D polygonic graphics was placed at the forefront of the console's design. PlayStation game production was designed to be streamlined and inclusive, exciting the support of many third-party developers. Dude, they had like 30 different gaming companies, all making their own games, all making their own titles. And it was like they had their own space. Every single one of them had their own space.
What they had was all of these Japanese companies. So Sony's a Japanese company themselves.
Yep.
They have Konami. They've got Square Enix, Squaresoft, I believe, maybe. Because they have, because that's what the Final Fantasy series, that's Dance Dance Revolution. They got Capcom, which then there's a bazillion titles that Capcom has done, not to forget that we just talked about Street Fighter, but they also did King of Fighters, I believe. No, that's SNK, but they did crossover with them in King of Fighters, Capcom, and then there was Capcom versus Marvel. There was the Resident Evil series. So Resident Evil got its start there. You got Dance Dance Revolution was on the PlayStation. It was an arcade game. Anything Konami did, any of these big, how many other games? So Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, 9. Well, I think once you get to 9 and 10, it's now you're on PlayStation 2. But yeah, like they had this core group of, and they still do to this day, that even with the PlayStation 2, PS3, they've happened to find these niche game companies, or even if they were even if they were companies with history that maybe didn't do video games and then got into them. Maybe they were doing arcade games and they just started. We're going to open up a game publishing studio, and Sony's already got the hardware for it. We'll go sell our games on their stuff because Sega's floundering. Yep. And then so you end up with Sony and Nintendo as direct competitors in the Japanese game console market.
Exactly. Well, let's see what PlayStation has to offer.
The first time I heard this sound was on one of those.
December 1994, the new PlayStation was
It was amazing.
Released in Japan to begin with, the console was a roaring success and would be distributed to a worldwide audience 1 year later. It cost $299 US at launch and went on to become the first game console in history to sell more than 100 million units. PlayStation's main advantage over the competition was that it used CD for all of its games, as opposed to the heavy use of cartridges at the time. Whereas a cartridge could store maybe 12 to 15 megabytes of data, developers using CD could store up to 650 megabytes. A memory card containing 128 kilobytes of storage was required to save your game progress. The PlayStation's superior specifications meant better graphics and an overall improved gameplay experience. As a result, established franchises like Final Fantasy actually switched from Nintendo to PlayStation. Classic games like Ridge Racer, Crash Bandicoot, and Metal Gear Solid also attracted a wide audience and showcased the amazing performance of the console. As for PlayStation's best-selling game, that would be Gran Turismo, of course. Gran Turismo was incredibly difficult to develop. Game designer Kazunori Yamachi said, quote, "It took 5 years. In those 5 years, we could not see the end."
Dude, I forgot what they did to get the simulation of how the cars drove, but what they did was they did it all in mathematics. Mm-hmm. So they took actual cars and then they used like actual math based on the amount of centimeters and the amount of compression of the springs, the amount of horsepower, all that stuff. And they put it into a computer, and the computer basically generated how the car would move on the track.
They had to come up with, and the game engine had to be designed around physics, and they had to get it just right. And they nailed it. As they went, they've got better and better and better. Between Gran Turismo and Forza, like I would have to pick Gran Turismo.
Oh yeah.
And if you've not seen the Gran Turismo movie, which is a documentary about, not really a documentary, it's like a dramatized retelling of when the Gran Turismo team decided that they were going to turn a simulation racer into an actual world-class race car driver, and they did it.
They did it.
It was phenomenal. So
I was actually surprised at that movie.
It was a good movie.
It was actually a really good movie. I was expecting it to be cheesy and like all this other. No, they did a really good job. Like even my wife watched it.
Yeah, my wife watched it. I was like, let's see what this is. It was like it wasn't like something you go back to the theater and watch 2 or 3 times, but it was like, dang, what happened to just like, okay, this was a movie that if I picked one off the rack at the rental store back in 1995, this one would be right in the middle of like, okay, that was cool. I'm not
Yeah.
mad I spent the money on that one. I'm not going to rent it again, but yeah.
No, it was good. And the actors, I mean, who's the guy from Stranger Things?
I forget the name of the guy that is from Stranger Things. He was the
cop,
sheriff.
the sheriff, right? Yeah, and he was and he was also on Hot Ones. You know, the one where you eat the wings and he asks you questions and stuff. He was actually cool in that too. Like, I actually want to have a beer with this guy. Yeah, I really do.
In the Gran Turismo flick, he plays the crew chief for the driver that the Gran Turismo team puts together. Like when they do a big competition and everything, but that actor plays the crew chief, and he's got one of those cool, like, he was once a wash up kind of dude, you know, redemption story arc to, you know, he's an underdog in the whole circuit, blah blah blah. You know, there's a lot of like movie tropes in there that make it enjoyable and give you some little plot twists here and there.
Amelia Hartford was in there too, which I was like, because I remember she said that she was going to be doing that movie because she's like this like car guru. She's got like millions of dollars worth of cars. But she's just some skinny little white chick, like, just, you know, getting in there and being a grease monkey. I fucking love her, dude. She's awesome. But also, Orlando Bloom was in there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just like, what kind of cast is this?
Guy. He's not really a bad guy, but like he plays a different kind of character than you used to him playing.
And he looked old.
Yeah.
Oh, they made him look old. Okay, let's finish.
I would wake up at work, go to sleep at work. It was getting cold, so I knew it must be winter. I estimate I was home only 4 days a year. All the hard work resulted in groundbreaking graphics, and it is considered one of the greatest video games of all time. It was also a huge financial success, with over 10.9 million copies sold. Gran Turismo has become a huge series since its debut in 1997. The latest game in the series is Gran Turismo 7, which was released on March 4th, 2022. It's mind-blowing to see how much graphics have evolved in 25 years.
And Gran Turismo is not a game built just for gamers.
Sony's machine was pretty impressive as a music CD player, too. It played discs with great...
So I have to ask, how did you play Gran Turismo? Did you press X for gas and square for brake?
No, I was maybe on the original ones, but I remember using the triggers as much as I did, because I played more Gran Turismo on the PS2 with Gran Turismo 4.
Gran Turismo 4? Yeah, Gran Turismo 4, I think I put the most amount of hours in. Gran Turismo 2, I put the second amount. But I used the R3 up for gas and R3 down for brake.
Interesting.
With the manual triggers.
Okay.
So I figured out like the perfect amount of brake and downshifting that you needed to do on the controller to hit the corners perfectly in a symmetrical curve.
That would make more sense using because you have a lot of range with the stick for the gas pedal for the brake.
And you can adjust that range. You can adjust how hard, but you didn't adjust it in controls. You adjusted it in the actual vehicle that you were driving. So each vehicle that I had, I was able to make those adjustments the way that I wanted to in order to slow the car down the way I wanted to, downshift the way that I wanted to. And I don't know, it's just, I like my hands. So I went to, what was it? San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay.
All right. When Gran Turismo 5 came out. Okay. And they were doing like a special where whoever had the fastest time ended up winning a PS5. Well,
so they were doing the contest with like on Gran Turismo 4?
No, it was Gran Turismo 5.
So they were doing like this is the first time you get to actually play it, but okay, so you guys are playing the demo and you're competing with the demo.
The game was already done. It hadn't been released. It was going to release a month later, but they had the whole simulation where you sat in it and it came up and like did the curves and stuff. Well, I did it. I actually jumped in, did the Silver Star track with a Ford GT, and I ended up getting the best time and didn't get my ticket to get my PS5 or PS4.
Yeah.
I think it was a PS4 that was coming out.
Well, if it was placed, it would have been PS3 coming out.
Was it PS? You sure
because
it's
Gran
PS3?
Turismo, because you said Gran Turismo 5. If it's Gran Turismo 5,
or Gran Turismo 6. It was it 9? Okay, now I gotta look this up. I gotta look this up. When did Gran Turismo 6 come out? Okay, so it's just 2013. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. So it was December 6, 2013. It was 2013 when I went there. It was nearly 10 years ago. Oh my God, am I getting old? 10 years ago, I went to the San Diego Comic-Con. My goodness, I'm just losing track of time. But anyways, yeah, so it was this one, Gran Turismo 6. And I ended up getting the best time and did not get my raffle to get
What'd you do? Just jump in and just like, haha, I'm going to play the game. I got the best time.
Literally, that's what I did. I just jumped in and played, went Silver Star, went Ford GT, and freaking destroyed everybody by like 45 seconds. It was insane.
It's funny.
Oh, man. I these times I miss it. Let's go.
Clarity, and as such, it served multiple uses, appealing to both families and older generations. This tradition of dual purpose would be seen in later versions of PlayStation, with the PS2 catering to DVDs and the PS3 serving as one of the cheapest Blu-ray players upon its release.
Yep.
Exactly.
There were probably more PlayStation 3s sold for the Blu-ray feature than anything.
Anything else. Yeah, it was amazing. But yeah, all right. So we spent way too much time in nostalgia. So let's jump to the Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64, a home video game console developed and marketed by Nintendo. It was released in Japan on June 23rd, 1996 in North America, and September 29th, 1996 in Europe and Australia. Let's see, as the successor to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the N64 was the last major home console to use ROM cartridges as its primary storage medium. As a fifth generation console, the N64 primarily competed with Sony's PlayStation and Sega Saturn. This isn't even fair. Sega just got destroyed.
Oh yeah,
they completely got destroyed.
They got mauled. And it's not like their hardware wasn't capable. They were using the same controller from the previous generation. Sony comes out the gate hot with a nice controller with analog sticks, dual analog sticks at some point. Oh, no, they didn't have the analog sticks at first. Eventually it did. But then 64's over here with this freaking squid of a controller, which I think is probably one of the best controllers there is, because it was cool. It worked. It did different depending on what game you were playing. You held it differently, but they just, Sega was using the same controllers from the Genesis, the 6 buttons. They didn't update anything, and so they were limited there again. Just not fair. Absolute squash. Just
yeah. I mean, in N64, I mean, you got games like GoldenEye, like Super Mario 64, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Battle Tanks, Super Smash Brothers when that was released, and one of my like underdog favorites, which was Track and Field.
They did a Track and Field on 64.
Yeah, they did a Track and Field, or it was like an Olympics game on 64 that was actually really fun. And it was actually difficult because I had every single Olympic sport in there. It had the swimming, it had the hurdles. The hurdles was the hardest because if you were just doing a sprint, like a 100-meter dash, you just hit the A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. But if you were doing the hurdles, you had the A, B, A, B, A, B right trigger when you had to jump over A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B right trigger, A, B, A, B. It was a lot of fun. Clean and jerk. They even had the what is it? The one where you put the big ball here, the shot put, and toss it out. That it was a bunch of fun.
I'll tell you what my favorite on the 64,
Star Fox, Mario Party.
See, I never like Mario Party. A lot of those games that are party games, a lot of my other friends had and they bring over, and especially once we got to playing the Wii or Switch. But like, I hardly played Mario Party or those or any of the other games like that particularly. Like, I never was into just sitting and playing a game show. Like, I tried the Wheel of Fortune game on the 64. It was fun when you had people in the room to play with you, but that's about as far as that went. I think there was a Jeopardy game. There was a whole string of TV game show games that went to the 64, which was actually kind of fun. But
you don't know Jack? I think was on there, wasn't
it? Maybe. I'm not sure. All I remember
I think that was PC.
Probably. All I remember is that the Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy were on there. The game that I had when I opened up my 64 on Christmas that year was Wayne Gretzky's NHL hockey game. That game was wicked good, and I'm not a sports guy. And Rum will tell y'all I'm not a sports guy, but certain games popped out, and if they have good control and they're intuitive, and you could sit there and do that, I was like, yeah, let's just play this. That was one of the few games like that I played on 64.
And we can't say 64 without talking about GoldenEye. Ba, ba, ba. We didn't plan that, ladies and gentlemen. I promise. But I'm about to piss off a lot of people. Okay, so you know how they had the wrestling games, right? They had WCW versus NWO Revenge, and then they had No Mercy, right?
And those are the THQ studio games that were phenomenal. And you spent more time making characters than playing the game.
I can't tell you how many characters I made in that game.
I made so let's just connect the dots across timelines here. At the same time as I'm playing these games, where I'm also watching anime. My first animes are like, your Dragon Ball Z and whatnot, and we're on Cartoon Network. And also Sailor Moon was on, and I made a Tuxedo Mask wrestling character because they had the big top hat.
Oh my god!
I made a Tuxedo Mask in there.
That's crazy. All right, so but I said I was going to piss everybody off. We had GoldenEye, and then of course 3 years later, Perfect Dark emerged, using the same engine that GoldenEye was on.
Better.
A lot of the same. It was better. I'm sorry. It was better.
It was too good because I was used to GoldenEye, and every when I picked up Perfect Dark, it was slaughter. It was the Dark Souls of shooters. Unforgiving.
And not only that, but my favorite gun was a laptop gun, because I would gather all the ammo that I could, and you could take the laptop gun and you could throw it up on the wall, and it was a proximity gun. So anybody that walked past it, like, you got. Well, it was great.
Let's do we have a clip for anything that's like a side by side of these two games? I just want side by side of the two.
Perfect Dark. Let's see.
Because
surpass. Oh, that's 19. I'm trying to find something that's short. Oh, boom! Here we go. I got one.
And welcome to another edition of Zion Mainframe versus. I hesitated because I was trying to give a little more emotion and emphasis on that. Today, I'm going to be battling
the music was badass.
Doesn't he have a side-by-side? Can you scrub through his video and find a side-by-side just to show the speed?
Versus its sequel, Perfect
All right, here we go.
Dark. So to have it.
Just mute him. We can see it.
Dude, I'm gonna mute it.
Yeah.
While he's going through it, but the gaming. I mean, this was Perfect Dark. It looked it's basically GoldenEye, but with way better weapons. Way better weapons. How could you not?
I'm surprised they were able to use that game engine for, and this is great, at the dam level, You know, the control scheme is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it kind of moves nice. See how slow they all are, and it's just kind of chill moving through.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to, and then here's Aztec and GoldenEye.
Oh, I hated that level.
Aztec level is crazy.
Especially I hated that level. Oh my god!
If you played You Only Live Once, and you did Slappers and Golden Gun.
Oh yeah, I forgot what that was called.
But that's what it is like.
But here, look at this. Okay, so this is GoldenEye, right?
Right. So, okay, so you got Zoom, dude. This was my favorite level. I think I played that over and over and over again.
No, my favorite was the frigate.
Here's more
the boat
dark.
level.
Oh,
this is Perfect Dark, dude. There was no comparison. There was absolutely
let it play a little bit longer. We got. Yeah, here's some more.
Oh, and you can cloak yourself, and yeah, that was insane. That was the MCP 90.
Yeah, see how much faster you can aim and move around. You add that to the multiplayer, because like when you played the Perfect Dark game itself, it was good, and the enemies moved just about the same as in GoldenEye.
Oh, the dragon!
But once you got 4 players going on Perfect Dark, and you all had that ability to be quicker. Oof! Like you, and this is the era before you could adjust your sensitivity on your joysticks. It was all locked into the game. And when they upped that sensitivity on Perfect Dark, that opened a whole new realm of, being competitive.
Dude, even this first level, like the first level was 3 stages where you were in the entire Cyberdyne building. And you had to start at the beginning and work your way up to the top, find somebody. Then you had to go all the way down to the basement and get a couple of things. And then you had to fight your way out of the building. That was probably one of the. I spent many a nights just starting the game over, just doing this part.
Wow,
it was amazing, and I hate to say it, but it just had a better storyline. Now at the end of the game, it got a little weird because you had to fight like aliens and stuff. But like, it was totally worth it because you got all of these brand new weapons. Remember the Slayer, which was the rocket that you could guide and spin around like this and run into things. Oh, dude, come on,
man! We're gonna have to do a whole episode dedicated to remasters because I'm looking at some of these stuff on this, and it's like there's a version where they ported all of the GoldenEye assets to the Perfect Dark engine. They did a total conversion for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's stop. Let's move on. Because if we don't, I will be here all night.
We will both be here all night. Okay, now I just got to figure out where this video is. There it is. Okay, let's see. What are we going to go to? We need to do. Oh, yes. Completely forgot about this. Before we move on to the PS2, there was one gaming system that happened in between all of that was way ahead of its time. Take a wild guess.
Dreamcast.
Yes, sir. So, Dreamcast is the final home video game console manufactured by Sega. It was released in Japan November 27, 1998, North America on September 9th, 9999. I've told you to remember that date. And in Europe on October 14th, 1999. It was the 6th generation video game console, preceding Sony PlayStation 2's, Nintendo GameCube, and Microsoft's Xbox. The Dreamcast discontinuation in 2001 ended Sega's 18 years on the console market. So much so that Nintendo decided to buy up all the rights of a lot of its games.
Yep. Yes, they did.
It was probably the best thing they could have ever done.
Mm-hmm.
To keep them alive. All right. Let's see. Developed the Dreamcast 97, contrast expensive hardware and unsuccessful Saturn. Dreamcast was designed to reduce costs into off-the-shelf components, including Hitachi SH4 CPU and NEC Power VR2 GPU. Sega used a GD-ROM media format to avoid expenses of the DVD-ROM technology. Developers were able to include a custom version of the Windows CE operating system and game disc to make porting PC games easy in Sega's Naomi arcade system board allowed nearly identical conversions of arcade games. The Dreamcast was the first console to include a built-in modular modem for internet access and online play, which I never actually figured out.
Oh yeah, the online play. I think it was just like a DSL modem. I think you could actually interchange it. You could pull it out and upgrade it. I think there were a couple of them. Phantasy Star Online used it. That was the big one. This era wasn't really known for online gameplay on a console. I mean, World of Warcraft was out. We're talking PC. We're talking Half-Life, Counter-Strike. We're talking, Half-Life just came out. And so we're talking Planet. What was Planet Half-Life, like GameSpy, that era. And Dreamcast, its downfall being the fact that, it was off-the-shelf components and it was Windows. What happens when you use off-the-shelf components that everybody knows how to hack? You hack them.
Yeah, that's what they did. And then people started burning games, and you were able to play Japanese games. You were able to play all different types of games.
The first emulators that were built for like old system or for the retro systems were ported to Dreamcast. You were able to play them there. That was cool.
Exactly.
The Dreamcast had the best launch lineup of games for a North American console ever.
Yes.
I will fight you if you think that is not true. It released for $199, and it actually was the best launch of any home console in history at that point. Unfortunately, it was discontinued just 18 months after the release in North America. One of the reasons why I think that it's great to play the Dreamcast on original hardware is because it was so quirky. It had the unique controller.
Yes,
it had the VMU, which is the memory card, the visual memory unit, which stored your game saves. And not only that, the VMU could do so many other things. When you were playing games, for example, on NFL 2K, you could pick your plays from the VMU so that you could disguise it from the player that you're playing sitting next to, because
my cousin
multiplayer games were still
absolutely
very much
hated
a
me
thing
doing that
in those times. But the ability to use that second screen is very reminiscent of what Nintendo was doing with the Wii U. Virtua Tennis, you could play entirely from the VMU. It was such a cool concept, and not only that, but you could take the VMU and use it for other purposes. You could remove it from the console. You could play mini games. You could, for example, in Sonic Adventure, you could put a Chow in your VMU and then level it up while you're away from your console.
Like a Tamagotchi.
It had so many possibilities that a lot of developers didn't really utilize. And that's something that happens a lot with consoles. I could go all in about how awesome the VMU was, and it's not perfect. It only had 8 megabytes of memory, so you couldn't store very much on it. The batteries die really fast. Trust me, I bought bulk CR 2032 watch batteries, and it didn't have the support that it needed to really be a great feature, except for some of the first party games. And Skies of Arcadia, that had a cool mini game that you would take with you on the VMU. But other than that, the Dreamcast itself looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. I'm shocked at how small it is. One thing to note is that piracy was a big issue with the Dreamcast. A lot of people blame the piracy as the main issue. It definitely wasn't, because they didn't sell enough consoles. The timing of the announcement and the release of the PS2 was definitely the hardest blow to the Dreamcast. But one thing with...
That's cool. That was a nice touch on the PS2, not going to lie. To be able to put your PS2 vertical and then turn the logo so it looked right. That's a level of brand loyalty that you don't see in a lot of companies, right? Like, they went to the detail of saying, we don't even know if anyone's going to do this, but we're going to make it possible so that people who are really anal about the way their setup looks, they can turn
OCD PS players.
OCD mode.
Let's go. Oh man, I'm
jumping over, but yeah, this Dreamcast was cool. I remember renting a Dreamcast from a local video store with Sonic Adventure, and that's all I did for 3 days. over a holiday, 3-4 days. And so got it on a Friday after school. There was a Monday holiday. So everything was closed, even though it was technically the return date. And so I got to sit and play Sonic Adventure. I dang near beat all of that game in a weekend. Just
my favorite game that I ever rented for that was a game called Hidden and Dangerous. And basically, it was an old style, like World War II game that was way ahead of its time. So before Call of Duty, before World at War, before all that stuff. This game, all right. So basically, what you did is you had a cast of 40 characters, all right, and they all had different attributes. All right, you had snipers, you had artillery guys that were frontline, you had kind of like balanced people that could use every weapon, but weren't like superior at it, but they were decent enough where if you put all of them together, they'd be able to complete a mission. And it was 40 different levels that you had to go through. All right. And when you started the game, you had 40 levels and you had 40 people. And if anybody died at any point in that game, you lost that person for the rest of the game.
yikes.
Yeah. So you had to be very specific about who you put on each mission because each mission was different and each mission needed very specific types of people. So if you were on hilltops, you needed snipers, and then you needed a Bravo team to go in and like complete the mission while the snipers were sitting up top. On top of that, you were able to set up the game in a way in which you say, all right, you are going to go from here to here, and you are going to overwatch this area. And if anybody comes in this area, the snipers started shooting. But you had to be very specific about which area, because if they're overlooking the wrong area and you send your guys into the other area and all the people are over here, they're not going to be able to protect them, and then you ended up getting killed. So it was like a mind game of like wartime tactics that you had to do. And you had to set all that stuff up before you went on the mission.
Yeah, it sounds like Delta Force on the PC.
Yeah.
It's like that's how Delta Force on PC was. You would set up you would get your loadout, and you'd have a certain amount of people, and you'd have objectives, and you could command your unit to go like your other people as a first person shooter is what this one was. But yeah, that's cool. I tell you that the other cool game on Dreamcast was Soul Calibur. I like Soul Calibur.
Yeah, Soul Calibur.
Again, Sega with the good arcade games coming to their system. Y'all missed the boat.
Yo, Yoshimitsu, that was my dude.
Yoshimitsu is dope.
Yoshimitsu was my jam.
Question: how does Yoshimitsu get traded across all the different fighting games?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to figure out, because he was on he was Tekken, wasn't he?
Yoshimitsu is Tekken.
Yeah.
He's Soul Calibur. And then also in Soul Calibur, in the later games, they started implementing the Devil Jin fighting style in 4, I believe. 4 or 5, one of the two.
Right.
Then, yeah, so you ended up with like this crossover. Because Soul Calibur's very much a weapon-style fighting game, and the characters have different modes of fighting they can go into from different stances. But Tekken was like a straight hand-to-hand combat, other than characters like Yoshimitsu had his katana. So Yoshimitsu crosses over with the character himself is really well fitted for both games because he's a weird character. His moveset is bizarre. And
oh my God.
He's got that traditional, garb and katana and all that stuff. So he fits perfect in the Soul Calibur universe. Those were just phenomenal games. And I wish they would have done better with the arcade stuff. I'm going to keep saying that about Sega, but here we blow the horn for them. We play taps. We bid them adieu.
Which reminds me, we forgot about a game on N64, which was Killer Instinct.
Dude, we didn't even mention it on this SNES. That's another arcade.
Killer Instinct, dude.
Killer Instinct
Like,
was on the SNES, and then it had Killer Instinct 2 and Gold. We're on the 64. I believe.
KI Gold was a lot of fun. KI Gold was, I mean, there were so many different characters.
And let's not forget when we come back around to the Xbox, because they resurrected it on Xbox, on the Xbox One.
Ta-da! That's what's next, which is a perfect segue because the Xbox is a home video game console manufactured first by Microsoft. That is the first installment of the Xbox series of video game consoles. It was released as Microsoft's first foray into gaming console market on November 15, 2001 in North America, followed by Australia, Europe, and Japan in 2002. Classified as a sixth-generation console, competing with Sony's PlayStation 2, Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo's GameCube. It was also the first major console produced by American companies since the release of the Atari Jaguar in 1993. So this is the first sixth-generation gaming console, and this just blew like the floodgates open, right? Because I remember when I got my first Xbox, which by the way, okay, I'm gonna have to give me a second because I gotta find a photo of the day that I got.
You have a photo of the day
that I got my first. Hold on, I gotta find it now. You go ahead. You go through this real quick while I look for it.
Yeah, scroll it down just a smidge so I can read a little bit more there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, too far.
No, I said the Atari Jaguar in 1993.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was announced in March 2000. It was the release of the PlayStation 2 and featured the ability to play back CD-ROMs and DVDs. So this is another system that runs various Microsoft Windows and computer components. This was the first time there was like, technically, this is the first Steam box, like Steam machine, because before Steam was ever a thing, Microsoft was out here taking what they already knew from the gaming market with PCs, and they built a box. And so, just like the Dreamcast, this thing was very prone to piracy and hacking because of what was underneath of it. It had a Pentium 3, 733 megahertz. It had an NVIDIA GeForce-based GPU. I mean, this thing was a gaming PC with a controller port on the front of it.
Yeah,
That's
basically
what it was. And so those also that are into PC gaming later on, the people that know about Plex, well, Plex wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the Xbox, because before Plex there was Kodi. Before Kodi, or the origin of Kodi was XBMC, Xbox Media Center, which was a custom set of software that was made for this unit right here.
Absolutely. Because when I got my first Xbox, it was probably the greatest moment in my life.
That's great.
Yeah, it was. I can even tell you, what did I have? I had a football game. I forgot what. It wasn't 2K. It was like NFL for Xbox or something like that, which was out. It was out of this world. And then I had what was the other game? It was kind of like Afterburner, where it was a bunch of aircrafts that you could play with, and of course, the F-22 was like the top because it was before the F-22 actually came out, but it was like a prototype that you could go around and do different missions and stuff. Oh my god, I wish I could remember what that game was. Well, you had that game. You had, I remember the Armored Core came back. But then, of course, we had America's favorite game. Let's see if I can.
What'd you have?
This up. No, not that.
Favorite? The big.
This one.
What? Oh yeah.
In 3
Okay.
minutes, let's
Halo was
begin.
3 minutes.
A
Let's
really,
go.
really long time ago, the precursors, who are pretty much gods, create all life to enrich the galaxy and guide the cosmos through evolution. They want to pass on their divine responsibility to another race, and the Forerunners currently are the best choice. Many years later, the decision is redacted, and the humans are chosen to accept this responsibility instead. And the humans flourish as the new successors of the precursors. The Forerunners, enraged about the change in position, however, turn against the precursors and destroy them, despite the precursors having vastly superior technology. The slaughter is actually driven to the point of near genocide, but some precursors survive and convert their bodies into special dust to regenerate themselves back to their former selves sometime in the future. But eons later, that dust malfunctions and becomes a biological parasite, the Flood. Humans are infected and the outbreak begins. They fight the Flood by glassing their own infected planets. Worlds are completely destroyed, forcing the humans to retreat to Forerunner territory. Humans are forced to fight on two fronts at once, the Forerunners on one side and the Flood on the other. They're able to fend off the Flood, but the Forerunners annihilate the humans, destroying tens of thousands of their planets and banishing them to Earth. But then the Flood returns in full force and jeopardizes Forerunner worlds. So the Forerunners construct Halo rings, capable of eradicating all sentient life within an enormous radius to cut off the Flood's food supply, stopping their infection thereafter. They also save DNA samples of all different life forms so that life can resume after a Halo ring activation. The Forerunner Flood War continues until the Flood engulfs everything. The Halo rings are activated. Everything dies. The collected life form DNA is reactivated, it's released, and it flourishes throughout the galaxy. Thousands of years later, two alien species, the Sanchium and the Sangi Li, find leftover Forerunner and Precursor technology. They form an alliance, the Covenant, worshipping the Forerunners as gods and their technology as relics. Prophets serve as leaders, elites as warrior servants, and other species are recruited as well. They find the Halo rings, but they completely misunderstand the purpose. They believe the rings will bring them salvation, when in reality, obviously, they just kill everything. And then they discover humanity. The prophets find out that the humans are actually directly related to the Forerunners, and so they reason, oh man, if these elites find out, it'd mean that Forerunners are actually not gods. They're just really old aliens. And so their religion would fall apart and the prophets would lose power. So in order to cover this up, the prophets declare war against humanity as a threat against the Covenant's quest. Their attack begins the Human Covenant War. And over time, the elites begin to figure it out anyways. The prophets are a bunch of fucking liars, so they team up with the humans, destroy the Covenant, kill the prophets, activate a partially finished Halo ring, which, by the way, destroys a shit ton of Forerunner technology, and eradicate the remainder of the Flood infection. The war ends, and the elites and humans go on to reconstruct their homes. And it sounds like the humans elites win right.
Well, now, I never thought of it that way.
So much lore in Halo, it's stupid. Like, we got a guy at our Discord. You don't want to open that can of worms. If it's Halo or I actually like off-roading and Jeep stuff and going and camping. But if it's one of those two things, that guy if it's Halo or the 5.7 caliber for your firearm, those two things you'll never get this guy to shut up about. And there's so much Halo, it's stupid.
It's really, really bad. I mean, no, it's really, really good. You should join our Discord. Go to riseofmiddleamerica.com.
No, but that's what's great. It's like we have guys that know things about stuff. You're like, wow, I didn't realize there was that much into Halo, But anyway, Halo was like the first game like that I played that had that smoothness with, because beforehand even GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and playing on PC, like console shooters didn't really appeal to me, other than just like that was the only thing I knew before I had a PC. But once I had a PC and I'm playing Half-Life, Halo it blew me away. It's like, this is really good. It's really smooth. I could play this, and I still do. I've been trying to do a run through the Master Chief Collection lately. So,
dude, why didn't you let me know? I've got the Master Chief Collection.
Well, my son and I started it, and then like we didn't finish, and so like maybe we'll pick that back up at some point in the summer. I don't know.
Can they do more than 2 players?
I think so.
I think they can,
because they they backported a lot of that net code. It's it's Halo 1. You can play from Halo 1, and they remastered the original. That side by side of the graphics and everything, you can switch in game. Xbox or modern.
It's
cool.
awesome.
That's how good that game was back then. Is that we can still play it today, and it's dope.
We're going to be playing it 20 years from now, and it's still going to be dope. That's why I was surprised when I looked at all the games in the opening video, and I didn't see Halo at all. I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Especially Halo 3. When Halo 3 came out, it was just like everybody played that game. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter. There were men, women, old, young. Like, it didn't matter. When Halo 3 came out, it was on. And there were so many people playing at one. There was times where there were 30 million people playing at one time.
Yeah.
There's not that many people playing on Overwatch or Minecraft or any of, well, maybe Minecraft.
Dude.
But
no, don't forget Tetris.
Oh, Tetris, yeah. There are people they've been playing Tetris for 50 years. I'm not saying it hasn't even been out for 50 years. I'm just saying.
But yeah, the Xbox was great. I don't remember it being as as like ubiquitous as the other systems were. But the people I knew that had one, because I didn't have one myself, they thoroughly enjoyed it. And I enjoyed being over there and playing games. Half-Life and Half-Life 2 were ported to the Xbox at one point. And so that was really cool. And that system even lasted all the way up until the 360 in 2005. It's not like they had to they taper that off. Well, like it did well all the way for the most part. Just because it had a fan base. Like that's the thing that drives Microsoft and Sony is really any of these, like they know their market. Sega didn't know its market. Nintendo figured it out early. Sony came around and was like, yeah, we can do this too. And then Microsoft was like, well, we've been doing this on PC. Let's go.
Yeah.
So that's all they did. That's what they brought.
Exactly.
And then there's one more. We're missing one more. So we said PlayStation, we got Xbox, and then Leapfrog happens, right? With PS2.
Absolutely. That's right. PlayStation 2, in-home video game developed and marketed by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was first released in Japan on the 4th of March 2000 in North America and 26th of October 2000 in Europe and 24th November 2000 in Australia, blah, blah, blah. The regions thereafter, successors, original PlayStation console, as well as the second installment of the PlayStation brand of consoles. As a 6th-generation console, it competed with Nintendo's GameCube, Sega Dreamcast, and Microsoft Xbox. It was the best-selling video game console of all time.
I think there were more, because look at the picture of it there. You have that, Space Odyssey monolith looking thing. And then you have like this really thin guy over here. That's absolutely, if you've never seen one up close, that PS2 Slim doesn't have a regular disk drive in it that moves out. Instead, it's got a flip up, and it's flimsy.
Yeah,
like it's super thin. That thing is light, and they play.
Yeah, it was like a third of the weight.
Yeah, and the other thing is the PS2 had kind of like how the Xbox and the Dreamcast, you could also play online, but you had to get a special modular piece that went in the back. You could get a hard drive for it. It actually had a Linux operating system. You could get a kit. It was like an education.
I remember that. That's when Linux really.
Well, Linux was always kind of a thing, but it was just one of those niche, educational kind of things. The thing that got really used for the thing that really got the modem usage on a PS2 was the fact that the first Final Fantasy game to go online was released on PS2. And so they didn't want to go on PC, and so because PC was like, that's where all your online gaming was for the most part until you had the Xbox Live. Sony didn't.
2.
It's crazy to think the PlayStation 2 being the console that sold that many units and being that successful didn't have online gameplay. Its cohorts, not I would say didn't, but wasn't like a main thing, right?
Mhm.
Whereas on Xbox, they were like, yes, we're bringing everything to the table from the PC world that we possibly can. And then Dreamcast over here with Sega, like, we got a modem too, like playing Phantasy Star Online. They had the Sega Net. There you could surf the web. It was like a little PC. PS2 is PlayStation's like, nah, we don't need that yet. Not yet. Not really. The PlayStation Network wasn't a thing. They launched that with the PS3.
Yes. And the PS3 was the last PlayStation that I had. And that was the one I had Gran Turismo 4 on. And dude, I mean, I was wrecking people left and right. I don't even know where I ranked, but I'm pretty sure I ranked pretty high. But it was really difficult because in Gran Turismo 4, you had to. It wasn't about like your horsepower, your torque, and like all your. You had there was like a point system in which you couldn't go over a certain amount of points in order to race in certain races. Right, so you couldn't just max out your car and just go. You had to go underneath. So you had to figure out how to. This was the first time in history in which, in a racing game, you had to know your shit. You had to know your things about cars. You had to. Oh, dude, it was crazy.
There was an upper limit where once you got so far with tuning your vehicle, like you had to know how to do it. You could tune cars for drifting. And so the funny things was they've never had Porsche, of all of the brands of cars that are included in the Gran Turismo series that they had license to use. Porsches were never one. They couldn't use the badge, the name, nothing. It was RUF. All the RUF cars were like your Porsche 911s and your Boxers and all of that. And I had one set up to drift. It was absolutely hilarious playing that game, drifting the San Francisco circuit because it had those really hard corners.
Or was it Seattle?
Or Seattle.
I think it was Seattle had the hills and the like. Yeah,
but they're all like basically straight for the most part. There was like one nice little hairpin, but anyway, that game had you could tune you had turbo stages, you had the ability to change your gear ratio, your gearing on where your shift box went, and you could get more or less torque depending on how you wanted your first gear to run. A little less slip, a little more slip. Did you want to run through your gears real quick and top out fast, or did you like want to hit that top speed on a speedway? Like you could do all.
Oh, the speed oval, dude! I got the old Porsche, 911, like the 1989 one. And dude, I souped that thing up to almost 1,500 horsepower. And I was racing like Vipers. I was racing like some of these supercars. And the thing is that because it was so light and because I had the grip tires, dude, I would launch right off. And I'd literally have to launch in second gear because I couldn't launch in first. Third. What? Dude, it was so much fun. But then once you got to those corners, you had to learn the balance. You had to understand camber on your tires. You had to understand like the gear ratios. You had to understand like you couldn't really brake, but you also couldn't full throttle through them. So you had to figure out that sweet spot. Remember I told you I used my R3. Dude, it was so much fun. And then drafting. Learning how to draft behind cars and bro.
Yep. And the cool thing was you could just drive the cars. If you just like the cars, a lot of them, like you could tell the difference between, say, the Nissan R types, or like what was the 4-wheel drive? That was the Skyline. There was the Skyline with an all-wheel drive. GTR, the
RB26,
the Chaser, Toyota Chaser LM. That was a all-wheel. But there was the GT3000. Those ones were all-wheel drive, and there were some Subarus too. A lot of those are cars that people like to drive because they don't know how to deal with oversteer and understeer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you pull out, it's like, yeah, I want the Viper GT SR. That thing's awesome. And then you realize that it's fast on a straightaway, but it turns like a goddamn freighter.
It's the reason why they call it the Widowmaker.
Yeah. And braking is that was the worst thing with that car in particular, was in order to get, there was a GTSR like something type that was like one of the coolest cars in the game you could unlock, but you had to beat certain circuits with a car to get that car, to get a better version of it or something. It was tuned or whatever out the gate, and I could never beat the there was one track, like I would be good straight away, and then there was like 3 turns. It just absolutely killed me on that with that Viper. And you had to be able to tune it. You had to be able to get your braking right, your downforce, and all of these things, and then be able to stop that boat. You know, the game was really well done. So you could be a daily driver, or you could be a tuner. You could do both things. It was fun. It was arcade. It was sim. You had everything in between.
Everything was amazing. Yeah. And again, you also had, what was the other racing game? Forza?
Forza was the competitor on like the 360. Once the 360 came out, they ended up with Forza over there. I don't think Forza was on Xbox, was it?
I think it was. I think it was. I think it was after the fact.
It was. Yeah. It was on it. Interesting. I'm still partial to the
first,
the big, like THQ.
Riding on the back of the PlayStation's colossal success, the PlayStation 2, or PS2 for short, was released in the year 2000. It cost $299 at launch, which was the same launch price as the original PlayStation. While Sony's initial console was revolutionary, its successor was outstanding and solidified Sony's position as a permanent rival to Nintendo and later Microsoft in the years to come. The PS2 made a seamless transition from using CDs to DVDs, meaning it could be used to watch movies as well as play games, and allowed for online play with high-definition 3D visuals.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the PS2 memory card upped its capacity to 8 megabytes of storage. Much loved franchises like Ratchet and Clank, God of War,
and Kratos cast himself.
Oh yeah, God of War.
In all of Greece.
And Jak and Daxter found their feet with the PS2, while already popular series such as Grand Theft Auto saw a massive boost with the console's heightened power. For example, GTA 3 offered gamers a fully immersive sandbox-style game in 3 dimensions for the first time. Multiple accessories were released for the PS2 with varying success. They included the iToy camera, SingStar microphones, and buzzers, all of which increased the levels of interaction players experienced for a short while anyway. The controller was also updated with the introduction of the DualShock 2. Though it looked similar to the original, it weighed significantly less. The analog sticks were more robust, and the standard versions were black instead of gray to fit in with the PS2's darker color scheme. That the controller looked so similar to its predecessor was exceptional at the time. New consoles were expected to launch with entirely re-imaged controllers. If we look at Nintendo, we can see that the SNES had an entirely different controller compared to the Nintendo 64. And yet again, the GameCube came with a redesigned controller.
That was
The
actually
most
really good
notable
controller.
upgrade, however, were the pressure-sensitive buttons, which could be used in racing games such as Gran Turismo to control the car's speed with more precision.
Up and down.
This clever mechanic worked well for the PlayStation 2's best-selling game, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. The pressure sensitivity of the buttons could also be used for shooting and aiming mechanics, as seen in Metal Gear Solid 2, when a light button press resulted in the player holding up their gun without shooting. A slimmer, lighter PlayStation 2 console was released in 2014 with a starting price of $149. Known as the PS2 Slim, it was also quieter than the standard model and had a built-in Ethernet port. The design was trimmed further in future years, and this constant slimming of consoles would become tradition for later PlayStations in the series. Over the years, countless games were released, including Gran Turismo 4.
That's the bomb.
Final Fantasy X.
I played Final Fantasy X.
And Kingdom Hearts.
All right.
Kingdom Hearts. Bro, Kingdom Hearts. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know what Kingdom Hearts is, I'm going to explain it to you in the easiest way possible. All right, so here's Kingdom Hearts. Disney. Final Fantasy.
Square Enix.
That's it.
Square Enix did a deal with Disney.
That's the post.
Devil.
But
My
yeah,
wife loves Kingdom Hearts. She played them all and beat them all. It's fine.
I played a little bit of 1. I played all of 2, beat 2. Then I when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I was in El Salvador. And it took me 3 days to download it because of the internet down there. But I got it, and it took me so long that I just decided I wasn't going to play it. I literally downloaded it and did not play it. It was sad. But anyways, let's see how much time we got left. Okay, we got about 20 minutes. All right, so let's kind of fly through these, because what's next? We haven't mentioned Nintendo in a while. That's right. Look at that slim style.
We just totally skipped the GameCube. How dare we?
Well, oh, you know what?
Dare we skip the GameCube?
I completely didn't put the GameCube in here. What is wrong with me?
What's happening? That's fine. Just do it the same way. Just go grab the wiki on it real quick. We can run through.
Wiki. Here we go. Game Kube. There it is. All right. So we're going to act like that didn't happen. The Nintendo GameCube is a home video game console. Developed and marketed by Nintendo, it was released in Japan on September 14, 2001. In North America, November 18, 2001. This is November. It's late November. Seems to be. Oh, you want to know why? Because it's Black Friday.
That's probably why. The holidays, they want things out for Christmas and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, its successor to Nintendo 64, a 6th generation console. The GameCube primarily competed with Sony's PlayStation 2, Sega Dreamcast, and Microsoft's Xbox. Nintendo began developing the GameCube in 1998 after entering a partnership with ArtX in Design Graphics Processing Unit. The console was formally introduced under the codename Dolphin. Yeah, I remember that. And following year and was released under 2000 because it's supposed to be called the Nintendo Dolphin.
Well,
I remember that.
It was that was that eventually became the name of the emulator that runs, GameCube, N64, all the Nintendo stuff,
Yep, what do we got? It's Nintendo's first console to own its own optical discs instead of ROM cartridges, supplemented by writable memory cards and save games. Unlike its competitors, it's solely focused on gaming. It does not play mass media like DVD or CD. The console supports limited online gaming for a few games via GameCube, broadband modem adapter. Let's see, Game Boy Advanced. Yeah, that's right. Game Boy Advance, you were able to hook up to it. Broadband or modem adapter.
Games did that. The Pokemon games were notorious for, Nintendo needed excuses for accessories. And Pokemon became the scapegoat. Like, you had Pokemon Snap. You had the link cables because they really nailed. How do you make one game and sell it twice to the same person? Right? Like you have because they had the red blue, and there was a link cable for the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. And they go all the way through these, and whatever generation of Pokemon game is, there's a way to link them up.
The best games on the system, whether to warm their senses of nostalgia or find a library to play on emulators. So here you have it, the best games of all time as voted by IGN staff.
Let's see what they got.
Mario Kart Double Dash has forever cemented itself as
God.
the king of the couch, introducing an entirely new way for players to race both with and against each other, thanks to the unique ability to have two racers man a single kart. Beyond its new doubles mechanic, Double Dash was chock full of instantly memorable tracks to race again and again and again if you were racing on Baby Park.
The Rainbow Road on that
Rogue
one was
Squadron
hard as
2 was
shit.
undoubtedly the graphical showcase for the Nintendo GameCube at launch, and remains one of the best-looking games.
This is one we forgot when we were talking about
everything
64.
we loved about the original
Rogue
N64
Squadron
game
on
and
the
ups
64.
intensity
Yeah,
and
right.
fidelity.
They had
Replaying
Pod
that
Racer.
first Death Star level is about the closest thing there is to
about
actually.
I
being
played
a
that in
Star
the
Wars
arcade.
As great as the original Pikmin is, the franchise continued to improve.
Pikmin, he was on the
While it abandons some of the
Super
engrossing
Smash
stress that came
Brothers,
with
not
the original
Melee, but the one
timeline,
after that.
Opening things up really
Sucked.
allows players to navigate Pikmin 2's mysterious world to their own whims. Adding in new Pikmin types with new abilities and Olimar's partner Louie allows for plenty more variety on the hunt of Pikmin 2's fantastic continuation of the series.
Let's see what Sunshine?
A much-needed vacation away
Yep.
from the Mushroom
They-
Kingdom led to a fun tropical
And they've done
setting filled with
remasters
unique
of
takes
Sunshine,
on
haven't
old
they?
enemies and fresh new
Didn't they
mechanics,
re-release it
thanks to
later?
Flood. Flood creates new
I
opportunities
don't
for
remember
creative
because
combat
I didn't
and
get that
platforming,
far
making
into
Super Mario
Nintendo.
Sunshine the
I stuck
perfect
with
balance
Xbox
between
after
the
that.
old and the hasn't been seen
No, I'm
since.
thinking of Galaxy.
The laid-back, low-stress
Animal
town simulator.
Crossing.
decked
Animal
out with
Cro-
talking
yeah, this
animal
was
townsfolk
massive
Instantly connected
when
with
this
fans of
came
all
out.
ages on the Nintendo
My
GameCube
wife
and
and
sparked the start
friends,
of
they all
Animal
played
Crossing
that.
becoming one of the
Animal
biggest
Crossing
and most
quite a bit, or
recognizable
they
video
did.
game franchises on
They
Earth.
spent so much
Meanwhile,
time making little
dissenters who are accustomed
houses
to
and
much
doing
more
their gardens,
engaging video
collecting
game experiences
stuff.
constantly shouted,
This is like
"What do
Animal
you actually
Minecraft."
do in Animal Crossing?" And as it turns out, not much. But
Something.
that's entirely the charm of it all.
I could never play that game or watch it be played because of the way
The Legend of Zelda
graphics were
Twilight
done
Princess was a
with the
darker
world
approach
map,
to Zelda,
way it
both in
rolled.
visuals and in its story. Brimming with cinematic flair, it featured some of the most inventive dungeons and bosses
I remember
in the
this level.
series, and the unique ability to fight and traverse in wolf form
Twilight
was
Princess.
only
I need to
bolstered
play this
by
one.
Link's mischievous companion Midna, who easily ranks among one of the best sidekicks of all time.
And we forgot to talk about Ocarina of Time with the 64. How dare we?
Sure, Resident Evil 4 remade
Resident
the core
Evil.
Resident Evil franchise just as it was starting to get a bit stagnant, but it also redefined the third-person action game genre as a whole and created a new benchmark for years to come. Resident Evil 4 expertly blended survival horror with copious amounts of action, thrills, and one of the first legitimately fun video game escort missions.
Yeah, and they made so many remasters.
For
and
many, Super
reports
Smash
of
Bros. Melee is the
Resident Evil
pinnacle
4.
of Super
It's
Smash Bros.
stupid.
And it's
Yeah.
not hard to
Good
see
game.
why. Melee has
Oh
a
my
unique feel
God,
to it
this
not
game.
present in any other Smash Bros. Game. Characters feel weightier, there are a ton of high-level techniques that completely alter how the game is played, and some characters' Melee counterparts are just simply
Game
more
and Watch.
fun to play.
That's my man
Regardless
right
of how it's
there.
viewed among other
Don't
Smash
don't
Bros.
sleep on
games,
Game
though,
and Watch.
It's indisputable that Melee was one of the most
9.
important games ever released on the GameCube. Despite its many detractors ahead of its launch, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker has endured as one of the most
is
unique
one I haven't
entries
played
in the
yet.
Zelda franchise. Yes,
Yeah, I
its
haven't
sailing
played this
speeds
one
were
either.
improved on the Wii U remaster, but it even still the chance to explore the high seas as Link, sailing from island to island while discovering new characters, awesome new dungeons, treasure, and talking fish is one of the GameCube's finest adventures.
What's number 1? No way.
Metroid Prime is one of the
Metroid
most
Prime?
sublime video game
Really?
experiences of all time, and a no-brainer choice for the top GameCube game ever created. Nintendo allowed the Metroid series to branch off in a new direction, and the fruits it bore would eventually become the Prime trilogy. For all intents and purposes, it sticks to the Metroid formula, but never before had it been so personal and immersive. The sense of mystery and loneliness was amplified by its
This
new
might be one of those
first-person
games I have to
setting,
visit
with
someday.
Kenji Yamamoto's
Samus
Falcon score
Samus
working
on
perfectly to give
Super
Prime
Smash
a
Brothers
feel
was a pain
that
in the
no other
ass.
game
If somebody
before
knew how
it
to
or since.
use Samus,
It's
it
without
was
question the best Game game and one of the best games ever made for any system.
I hated
Wasn't
Samus
a fast character,
And those are
but
the best game
Samus
games
had
of all time.
had some
Leave your
mobility
GameCube memories
stuff
in the comments
and
below,
some
and for
really
everything else
powerful
Nintendo,
moves if
stick with
executed
IGN.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah. So yeah, so those are some of the more memorable games there. Some of the other games that didn't do so well was like this Star Fox. Star Fox Adventure didn't do so well because it was based off of a canceled game. It was like called Dinosaur Planet, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why you have Fox McCloud running around on dinosaurs. If you ever wondered why that game was kind of weird, I played a little bit of it once. It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't like, flying around in space and shooting aliens and stuff. And, it wasn't cool. It wasn't like a cool sci-fi shooter thing. But, that's that. That Soul Calibur 2 was on the GameCube.
Yep.
And they had Link in it. So that began the tradition of whatever console Soul Calibur was on, they got a unique character. So what was the unique character on the PlayStation?
Ooh.
What was it on PS2? It was Spawn. No, not Spawn. It was Spawn was on Xbox.
Yeah, Spawn was Xbox.
PS2 had
Soul
Heihachi, I think, from Tekken. That's where the first Tekken crossover happens. And I think they even
it was Heihachi.
Yeah.
So that's right. And that's how they differentiated each one of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's interesting because now people that played one game would go out and buy a console just to play that game if they were that. Yep. That's really smart.
Yeah, so the feature specific exclusive deals when you had cross platform games, not to circle back around to Star Fox, what they did with Star Fox on Switch, it wasn't a Star Fox game. There was a game called Starlink Battle for Atlas. And it featured Switch exclusive DLC expansions that was an entire campaign, like offshoot, including Star Fox in the game. And it was really well done. It was cool. Like, I was like, I don't know why they didn't just make a Star Fox game using this game engine. It would have been amazing to do, but they still did it well. So anyway, yeah, console specific exclusives were the thing in that era at that point too. They've been doing some of that, but that really was a unique thing for Soul Calibur series. They moved up to the PlayStation 3. I think it was Darth Vader. Was it Darth Vader on there?
Yeah.
PS3.
It was.
And then what was it on Xbox 360? Which fighter was that? I want to say it was
Ezio Auditore, Assassin's Creed 2.
Yeah. Ezio was on that. And then you move up to I think they kept Assassin's Creed stuff on Xbox versions of it. I'm not sure what Soul Calibur ended up with on PS4 or PS5 when they updated the games on the later releases, but that was just a cool thing they did. And I don't think they've put Soul Calibur on a Nintendo console since GameCube, honestly.
No, they probably haven't. And well, I guess that brings us to our final game in the final game console, I should say, in Gen 6, which was the Xbox 360. I mean, I can sit there and explain when they came out or whatnot, but when the 360 came out, I mean, it just it was just a continuation of the epic gaming experiences that you could get. And remember, the Xbox 360 was the first console to start streaming movies because it had an exclusive deal with Netflix. for like 3 years, and no other console could do it. The 360 was the one that pulled it off. And that's what kind of lured a lot of other people over, because remember, you were talking about the PS3 and the Blu-ray, but streaming movies at your fingertips, that was very unique at the time, and nobody else was doing it.
And that's how I started watching Netflix, was on an Xbox 360.
Yep. And they had literally like 10,000 titles that you could watch at the time across a whole bunch of different genres. And I remember when they announced this, the moment they announced this, I went out and I was like, I'm Xbox for life. And I've had my account. I've had my Netflix account ever since it launched on Xbox 360. I have the exact same account.
Yep. I think I made my account on a buddy's Xbox 360. I was playing in bands, and I went over one day. I was like, "Hey, we're gonna work on this track or whatever," and my dude's sitting there at the end of his bed playing Doom 3. And I'm like, "What is this?" He's like, "Dude, sit down. You've got to see this." And like, yeah, we started playing some Xbox.
Exactly. So let's check out some of the evolution of the Xbox 360.
In 2005, Microsoft doubled down on their efforts and released the Xbox 360, almost a full year before its competitors came out with the PlayStation 3 and Nintendo Wii. Changing to an all-white appearance, the 360 was released at price points of $399 for the Pro version, which came with a 20-gigabyte hard drive, and $299 for the Core version, which only had 4 gigabytes of internal flash memory.
Let's just appreciate
later.
Let's just appreciate the difference in price for a few gigs. This is before Fukushima. This is before all of the hardware or the hard drive crisis happened, where all of the big major manufacturers of memory got hosed with tsunamis and all of that. Like, it was $100 more to get a better storage.
16
to get 16
gigabytes.
Gigs. Holy crap. How far we've come. Let's go.
In 2007 came the Elite with a 120 gigabyte hard drive and a black finish. The Core version was replaced by the Arcade. Both are almost identical. In 2010 came the Xbox 360S, a slimmer model with a Wi-Fi adapter. And lastly, in 2013 came the E model. It was restyled with design traits of the Xbox One. Getting the jump on its rivals certainly paid off for Microsoft, as the 360 sold more than 86 million units and remains the company's highest-selling game console to date. Updated hardware resulted in better graphics and a system that was thought to be much easier and more attractive for game developers. Xbox staff worked closely with game development studios and secured more exclusive titles, like the Gears of War franchise. Gamers had access to a wide variety of online and offline hits, such as Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Fable 2,
God.
Forza Motorsport 4,
2 wasn't a bad game,
Grand Theft Auto 5, and, of course, many Halo games, such as Halo 3,
Halo
Reach, and Halo 4.
And there's great cutscenes, like pre-render. You don't care if they're pre-rendered. It's not like now where they can just run 90% of these cutscenes in real time.
But let's appreciate, like, from where we just came from PlayStation 1 to this. Like, the
Xbox 360 came with a redesigned controller. It added fundamental changes, such as turning the Xbox black and white buttons into additional shoulder buttons. And it added a new audio plug-in for headsets. The 360 controller came in both wired and wireless variants. The real game changer was the guide button placed in the center of the device. It had 4 LED lights around the 360 logo that would show the number of controllers connected to the Xbox. But it would also flash when the batteries would begin to run low. The guide button itself was tied to the next-gen experience of the 360, allowing players to quickly go to the console's hub. The 360 controller was regarded as one of the best controllers out there. Many preferred it over the PlayStation 3's controller. The 360 was also a great home entertainment system, playing CDs and DVDs while supporting services like Netflix. The user interface, or dashboard, has undergone many changes throughout the Xbox's history, with the aim of making the user experience smoother and easier for all. However, it was not always received that way. One aspect of the 360 that Microsoft would rather forget about is the dreaded red ring of death, a console-killing issue that plagued Xbox owners and was signified by a ring of LEDs on the front of the console turning red and the system doing not much else. It was often caused...
Okay, I think it's safe to say it now. If I said this 20 years ago, I'd probably get a knock on the door by the FBI. So basically, the red ring of death, the majority of this was there are, I don't know, it's like these heat sinks that stuck onto the motherboard that would come loose. And basically, what their job was to absorb all of the heat that was coming out of the system itself.
It was worse than that. It was worse than that because I busted a few of these open, and there's only so much you can do by refurbing the thermal paste on a CPU.
Yeah,
these are what's called a BGA CPU, ball gridded array, and like your modern PCs, they have a socket where you'll have pins that fit down in the holes. These are soldered directly to the board, and it's just little dots and pads where they're socketed in. What would happen is, because most people who play on consoles don't know to open up, and they don't give you an easy way to open these up and clean them. Whereas PC people have known this for years, decades. You got to open that thing up, blow the dust out once in a while. Yep. But they're packing PCs in the tighter and tighter spaces, and that the thermal runaway, which is where once it gets so hot, the heat sink can no longer dissipate. The actual thermal, not the thermal paste, but the solder that connects that chip to the board would start to come loose. And would slide. And it was not like the whole thing would go, but you would get what they call cold solder joints in random spots on that. So you'd end up with, for a while it's cool, everything's cold, and you're not playing a harsh game. But then once you get into some heavy gameplay, it heats up, and that metal will flex, and the board will flex, and then you'll get a pin that'll jump, and then now your CPU's not talking to the machine anymore. And so the only way to do that would be to reflow the board. So like you could send them to places and reflow them. I never reflowed mine.
No, and the reason why I know this is because I had a friend of mine, a roommate that I used to have, that used to do this because he figured it out because he had a friend that worked for Microsoft that taught him how to do this. And literally people would come over. This was back in like 2008.
Right.
They would come over to his house and they'd be like, yeah, I got the red ring of death. And you'd be like, okay, come back and go out, eat something and come back. Within that hour, he had like a little tiny, like mechanical, like tool set where he would take everything off. He would go in, he would chip away at the heat sink, and then he would clean it off. Like he would sit it in like some kind of solvent, pull it out, and then he would put a brand new type on that had a higher heat. I don't know what you would call it, but
better conductivity.
Yeah, conductivity, and then he would place it back on, put it in exactly the way it was, and by the time the person came back, we were sitting there just playing Marvel versus Capcom.
He was just changing out the coolers.
Well, no, it was the metal piece, the little metal piece. Yeah.
That's just part of the cooler. That's the heat sink, the cooler on it. What I'm talking about is like the CPU itself. Like sometimes you could get away with that and you could clean them out and it would stay cool. But there would get to a point where that wouldn't work anymore. And eventually the CPU itself would have to be resoldered to the board, not just the cooler on it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Well, that was the other thing that he did. Because he knew how to do that, but it cost like $200 to do. Yeah. And he had like all the tool sets and everything with the glasses, and I was like, what the hell are you doing, bro? It was like, bro, I've been doing this. He'd been doing that since like the older games that even had that system.
Yeah, there were mods for the Sega Genesis where you could change out the crystal on it and make it clock faster. So yeah, this game modding's been around for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
What's this guy
By
got?
overheating. Did you know that these issues caused the Xbox 360 to have a failure rate of almost 24% during its first year on the market? At least Microsoft's CEO at the time, Steve Ballmer, had no problem spending over $1 billion to recall the 360 to legitimately solve the Red Ring of Death problem.
Yep.
In 2010, the Kinect add-on was launched, which consisted of a motion-controlled device and microphone. This allowed players to use their bodies and voice to control the action instead of using a traditional controller. Games such as Kinect Adventures, Dance Central,
Dance Central,
and Kinect Sports helped to sell the gadget. In total, 24 million units were sold. For those paying attention, you'll recall that's as many
now
sales
the government
as the
knows your
original
face.
Xbox console. Fun fact, on April 14th, 2010, Microsoft officially discontinued Xbox Live support for the original Xbox games. However, players who were still playing after midnight were left to play until they signed out. A group of 14 players kept playing Halo 2 online to defend the honor of hundreds of Halo 2 fans who would still love to play multiplayer. They became known as the Noble 14. The final player, Apache N4 Sir, stayed online for almost a month. Bungie thought it was honorable and gave them beta passes to Halo Reach. Microsoft also extended their Xbox Live memberships.
Nice.
That's awesome. See, that's the kind of stuff that, like, they don't do that anymore. Like, nobody does that anymore. Like it's no longer about the gamer. It's now about how much can we get in the shortest amount of time. And that's what happened with Overwatch, which we're going to talk about in the next series, because oh my goodness, do I have a bone to pick with what is it? Blizzard. Oh my God, I got a bone to pick with them, because I feel like they completely like bamboozled what the entire purpose of Overwatch 2 is supposed to be, and tricked millions of dollars for no reason. And I mean, I hope this doesn't get taken down because of this, but I'm going to explain it in the next episode.
And you know, we sprinkled in a bit of PC gaming throughout all of this, and I hope in the next episode we can talk a bit more about that. That would be cool, because there's so much history there, and in PC gaming alone, that by the time we get to the Xbox and all of that gets poured in, now it's kind of coming back full circle now with the modern Xbox, with the new Xbox Series stuff, and what their partnerships are doing with Valve, and or they're going to release stuff specifically for like Steam machines or Steam Deck, I believe it is. And we didn't even talk about handhelds for the most part, which is a whole other realm.
Now, also, wasn't there a naval ship that bought 150 PS3s and used that as their CPUs?
Oh, people were building clusters with PS3s. They were building with the PS2. And then on the PS3, because like the PS2, where they had a Linux system you could purchase to install on it with a hard drive, it was a whole kit. PS3 was sold with that in the marketing. You could install what they called other OS, other operating system. And it was like a really slim Linux operating system. You could do that. People started using it to, basically either in a military sense, and in some research facilities, that Jaguar chip that was on there, that with all the cores and the horsepower, was basically they were doing with PlayStations with what people do for Bitcoin mining today. If Bitcoin had existed in that time frame, and they would be mining Bitcoin on PS3s. That's how powerful that machine was for the day. And even to this day, there are still people that are writing code for PS3s and with custom firmware. Sony tripped up, though. They rescinded or revoked, as it were, the ability to install other OS. One day, PlayStation 3 owners woke up to log into their machine and not find the option to boot the Linux operating system that they were sold the machine to play. They were sold. They couldn't do the thing that they were told they could do when they bought it the first
When
place.
they bought it.
And then Sony took it away because of piracy. And then they lost a lawsuit over it, and everybody that signed the paper on the lawsuit to get into the class action got like $7. I hate class action lawsuits so much. They're so dumb. They don't do squat. Anyway,
No, it's not even that, but the amount of people that signed that lawsuit was not the overall arching amount of people that actually bought it for the sole purpose for that. And this, I mean, we can talk about class action lawsuits over the summer and have an episode on that, but that's here nor there and way over there.
I have a friend that does some instances of criminal justice and has done podcasts and live streams before. So we might want to see if I can pull her in. She might be fun to talk to about some of these true crime things we got going on. But hey, let's wrap this segment because we're at the end of the thing.
Yes, we are.
That, ladies and gentlemen, has been part 2 of Past, Present, and Future.
I missed the button. I'm sorry.
We're pros.
I don't know what's going on here, but we've lost our mind, and it's late, and it's probably way past our bedtime. So
we're gonna have to find a dedicated pre-record day or something where we can pull this out, because I don't like not having chat. I don't like not being on a Saturday interacting with everybody, and this just not the flow is off. It's off for
right.
me.
I should be in Colombia right now, but I'm not, because my kids are in Colombia right now, and they're having the time of their lives.
I'm going to go shoot turkeys. While y'all are watching this, I'm probably going to be proud of myself. I won't. This is the crazy thing is I was hoping that this morning, since everyone's watching right at this, whatever time you're watching, if it's on Saturday when this is going to premiere, I should have this morning from the time you're watching in this premiere shot a turkey, hopefully. If not, you won't find out about it till the next week. But I got a whole month of turkey season, and I got a 410 Mossberg. I'm ready to go.
Kapow! That's right. So to help us out, please go to riseofmiddleamerica.com. We got the recent news, rants, and deep dives to get you through the day. That's right. Look at our beautiful faces. We need facelifts, so please help us become the #1 podcast community on X, Rumble, YouTube, you name it. You can go to our Discord. You can apply there. You can go to our. Actually, I think we're monetized now on YouTube. So, yeah. So you can go there. You can do the same thing. You can go on Rumble. You can join us for $5 a month. You can join us on our Discord, or you can go all the way down the bottom of the page. There's a PayPal. Yep, you can make a monetary contribution to help us become the largest network across the internet. Also, you can show your support by getting some of our branding here with our Rise of Middle America t-shirts and brands and everything else in between. Got backpacks for you guys. Got the Ohio Man, Sunset Rants hats, RomaNation hats. We even got water bottles. I mean, look at that. Also, these 2 shirts over here are going to be discontinued next Friday for our next 2 shirts that are coming in that are going to be absolutely epic. Like, absolutely epic. You guys are going to laugh your asses off when you see the shirts that we have. So
I haven't even seen them.
Exactly. So this shirt right here, Air Mother, Can You Bend It? The Airbender crossover with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's going away. That's going away. It's limited.
That's very limited. On top of that, the other one, which is our dog, the baby hunter. These are all from our caption this on Sunset Rants. So make sure you guys.
They're user generated content. We have an AI image dump in the Discord, and then we pick from the AI image dump what we're going to use for the caption this, and then the audience gets to caption it. So,
and the winner each month gets their caption on a shirt. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. This one here, when you hit free parking in the wrong neighborhood, this one was absolutely hilarious. And then one that, you can't see it, it's in the writing here, but this was my caption this from like a year ago, where it says, used dishwasher for sale. Oh man, feminists are gonna burn my house down. Anyways, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and go to riseofmiddleamerica.com, and please support us. We're here for you. We do this on a very small budget, so any type of help that you can bring us will absolutely go right back into the studio, into all the content that we do, and we'll make sure that we make this the best podcast network.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
All the contributions and cash and things we get in here just go back into keeping the lights on, which is good, But sometimes you want to do more than keep the lights on. Sometimes you want to buy new lights. Sometimes you want to buy backdrops. Sometimes you want to do those kinds of things. And if we just so happen to get a very large donation, it might be justification for buying all of our network people, better equipment to make the content that much better. It would be really cool. It would be really cool if we could do that.
Yeah, we already had one person that came in with a large contribution that helped us buy 2 cameras for 2 of our people. And I mean, literally, it went straight to them. And I was like, please, here, take this. Let me get this for you. And it's made our shows that much better. So we definitely thank whoever did that for us. And hopefully we get a couple more. Hopefully we get a lot more, because our content is never ending, and we will make sure that we do the best job that we could possibly do for you guys. So thank you for watching. And you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to plug It's Based real quick.
Yes.
Okay, because we're doing the gaming stuff right now, and so plug them last week. It's Based the next week after the RomaNation podcast so we have Saturday, and then on Sunday they're doing their game jam, and this is where devs come together to compete for prizes and whatnot, and It's Based is all about this culture war thing. Hey, look, there they are posting.
Hey!
So, that's from last week. Yeah, they like memes too. Me wanting to replay a game, that part. They're all about the memes. Oh, here's some stuff. Here's some games. So this current progress on It's Based game jam with Mars theme. Ooh, they got a Mars theme. He's the sole developer for this game. So here's little bits of preview of stuff. Like, these guys are making games in a Discord. Some of these guys aren't a part of the Discord. They just advertise the game jam, and they get people coming from all over. It's cool. It's really
This is
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, these guys have, here's some more game dev stuff. So we're going to find out next week on Sunday. So, yeah. Wow, I have way too much money. Damn it. What am I going to do with all this money? It's literally falling out of my pockets. Won't somebody please take some of this money? Nintendo. So anyway, that's how I imagine our target audience. These guys are great. I love It's Based. So yeah, check them out. I'll be on the game jam with them, judging or yapping about as I normally do. It's going to be a good time. That's all I got.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Scrap, it's been a pleasure. We got part 3 coming in the following week, and man, it's always been great. It's always been great.
It's fun. We're packing it in the middle of the week so that way you guys have content on the Saturday when we're not there. We have things that happen. Life.
We got life. Life sucks. Love hurts. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong genre.
Well, let's get out of here.
Let me get out of here before I get myself in trouble. Anyways, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm AK, your favorite guy. You can find me at @TheRealRoma_AK on X. You can find him at Scrapjaw everywhere. And you guys have a great night, and we will see you the following week. Peace.
Hustle in my veins, no rest, no dream, trying to make a way. Whole team gotta eat. No sleep, gotta keep going. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. No sleep, till the world know it. I've been moving like a clock, don't stop, no breaks, no rest, no time to flop. Gotta get it while I'm breathing, never taking a loss. See the pain in my eyes, but the vision stay locked. Ain't nobody finna hand me a thing. Came from the bottom, I rose through the rain. Hustle like I never had a meal on my plate. Now we eating so good that the hunger remains. Fast lane, never slowing my pace. Tell them I was built for the chase. Every night trying to double my worth. Put my name in the sky, make it shake up the earth. Oh, I ain't getting no sleep till I touch that peak. Oh, I've been grinding all week. Ain't no stopping me. Late nights turn to early moans. Put the work in till the break of dawn. They was sleeping on the kid, now they call my phone. Now the city know my name, I've been putting them on. Ayy, tunnel vision when I step on the field. Gotta keep it real, never sign no deal. Independent, gotta get it, never needed a cosign. When the world told me wait, I was like, no time. Tell them I was built for this. Every verse that I spit got a hit or a risk. Never fold, never quit, let them know I exist. Till they call my name and go, let it shine like this. One shot, one chance, I ain't wasting a second. I've been